Morning, everybody. It's Chris here. Welcome back to the World Cup Daily Spreadsheet Show. This is show number 11, and I only want to hear Ian say one thing this morning, which is it's coming home.
Deary me, good grief. Why can't we just stay in the middle? When we lose, the whole world is falling apart, or when we get a weak draw, and then when we win, basically against, I mean, there was players who came on that Wales bench last night, players who came on, Chris, you wouldn't even know them or know what club they played for. And that's the facts of it. But all of a sudden it's coming home. 3-0, fantastic win. I didn't expect anything less. But no, you won't hear those words from me.
Yeah.
Morning, everybody.
Morning, everybody. It's looking like it's Senegal next round, isn't it? Then possibly France in the quarters.
Yeah, Senegal Sunday, yeah. They'll win that. They'll beat them.
Well, we'll be reviewing that on Sunday, of course. So big welcome to everybody. Let's see who's with us. So Dave, tuning in. So Dave, I think you missed this yesterday, but you said you caught up. So these shows will be available on YouTube on Catch Up, guys. Big welcome to Paul tuning in from down under. Roger is with us again. How you doing? Watching from Birmingham. Dean tuning in as well. How you doing, Dean? Stuart tuning in from Oxford. How's it going? Bjarne tuning in from Copenhagen, of course. How are you doing? Michael tuning in from Spain. That's where you are, Michael. Fantastic stuff.
Michael, yeah.
Big welcome. Raymond tuning in, South London. Pedro is with us. So Pedro, thank you for your email, by the way. I just read that this morning, and I think we do cover what you mentioned in your email in a later show. So, but thanks for pointing that out, Pedro. I'll reply to your email too. Snips is with us. How you doing? Barry tuning in, and the account issue is sorted. Barry, fantastic stuff. Good to have you with us. And other Barry tuning in. How's it going? Got the melancholic in the chat as well, tuning in from Yorkshire. Ian is with us. Welcome, Ian. CG and Kevin tuning in from Hong Kong. So we've got viewers in Europe, Hong Kong, Callum's in Texas as well, of course. I don't know if Callum's with us or not. And welcome to Anish. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. And always good to see you on the World Cup Daily Spreadsheet Show. As always, guys, the data is available for download now. After yesterday's session, I didn't upload the data file straight away, but I will try to do that. So after the sessions, I'll try to upload the file that I create to this link. The link is in the video description below if you want to access the data. All of the files are there. All of the files from all of the shows so far are there if you want to look at an individual file. When you sign up for this, if you haven't signed up already, you have to put your email in. You'll receive a promotional email about Excel VBA for football traders. This is our unique Excel VBA learning community for people like you looking to accelerate their Excel learning, working with football data. It's been great to see new members coming in. Been dealing with a few questions via email. So fantastic to see people coming in. People have been taking advantage of our World Cup offer. So you just type in the World Cup discount code when you sign up. That locks in a discounted rate for life. It's a monthly fee model, guys. So you can jump off anytime with no ongoing obligation there. Good. And finally, in terms of housekeeping, our disclaimers, guys. The show is not about encouraging anybody to bet. We're not endorsing supporting the location of this tournament either. You can read those disclaimers in the video description below. But I think that's everything. So ready to kick off today, Ian, as it were. So a quick review of yesterday's fixtures.
Yeah, right. Morning, everybody. Very global show. And nice line, Barry Walker, Stadler and Waldorf. The old Aussies will be on tenterhooks, Chris. Big day for them today. It's a big day for them today. And Callum probably hasn't got up in the States because of their win last night. So obviously we saw, I couldn't have got more wrong with the match odds. I thought Ecuador would beat Senegal quite comfortably. Went behind, draw was good enough. Got the goal back, and I did predict goals in the game. We did get the first half goal. They got the goal back and immediately conceded again 2 minutes later, and they are gone out. And I think it shapes up, England better having Senegal as opposed to Ecuador. I do think England will beat Senegal. So they went through. Netherlands beat the pub side comfortably. That's them gone out, get rid. Iran, I mean, I didn't, again, I'm not watching, but I saw somebody sent me a thing saying that the guy should have scored from about 6 yards out to equalise. I just think a really good result for USA. I didn't think they'd win yesterday. Fair play to them. I just thought Iran would be harder to beat, and I didn't see Iran not scoring, I'll be honest, but good result for the US. And then Wales, England is exactly what we expected. And the only people who didn't expect that were the Welsh. And they're living a little bit on pride and spirit and this, that, and the other. And I get all that's a great thing in football, team spirit and togetherness, but ultimately the better players win. Southgate, there was a little chat in the FTS room about Foden being the saviour of English football, having not played. Mm-hmm. He did play him last night. He did score. And I got
Rashford's been a bit of a surprise, hasn't he? Rashford.
Yeah, well, I think he's been turned around at United. I think the whole thing with that, his parliamentary experiences of trying to get all that sorted, I think played on him. He seems to have put that behind him. Ten Hag's come in, giving him a new lease of life, and he is a quality player. He is he's a quick forward and very skillful. There was talk of him leaving United and perhaps going somewhere like PSG, but I think he'll be a sort of main player at United for a few years forward. And I think there is a danger. I mean, England have got a habit of wasting generational players. We have got, we did it with Hoddle, did it with Gascoigne to an effect. Paul Scholes, who's one of the greatest players who played in the Premier League, was being forced to play out of the position a lot of the time. And there is a danger with people like Foden that you sitting on the bench and saying he can't do it. He is, for me, when I've seen him play, a generational talent. I think he is a phenomenal footballer. For me, he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet. You build players around that. Don't think anyone Welsh thought we would win that, especially as Dan James was carrying an injury. All I didn't want to see, CG, was minute 1 Dan James goal. That would have got me sweating a little bit. But there we go. So yeah, I mean, I was surprised that Iran did that, and I did fancy Ecuador, but everything else went to script, and into the next round they go. So it'd be interesting to see how it goes. Netherlands, USA. I think Netherlands will beat them. I think England will beat Senegal. And we're away and running. Let's get on to today, because today is crunch day. Today is really good.
Big fixtures.
And we're going to start with the ones that we've got in the morning. France against Tunisia. Tunisia have put up a stalwart defence, but France are through, and it may well be that they play kids today. They're home and host, so it's not a game I've got any interest in. But the other game is winner takes all, Denmark versus Australia. Denmark, I was quite surprised to see how short they were, 1.55 favourites. I've just got some notes on these two games because they are big. If you want to put that up, Rick.
Yeah, I'll put that up.
Yep. See it, and then we'll put the numbers. Just because there will be. We've got some Aussies in, we've got Danes in, we've got it all. So Aussies currently have the upper hand. They've only made the knockout phase once in 5 World Cups. That was in 2006. This is the one, and we'll get to numbers in a minute. First clean sheet since 1974 in the World Cup. In last game, 13 out of 14 of their group games have gone over 1.5. And it will be an amazing achievement if they go through that to win 2 playoff games to Qatar. They only won one of their last 7. Last World Cup, these two met. They drew 1-1. That's the result. We'll see the Aussies through. I think that's what the Aussies will be hoping for today. Denmark, no one picked up, that should say more. Good spelling. More points in qualification than Denmark. Made it out of the group 4 or 5. Euro 2020s, they lost both opening games, made the semis, but they haven't won in 5 at World Cups across last World Cup and this one, 4 draws and that defeat to France. So it is poised. I think this is too short, Denmark. I really do think this is too short. I think
Viana agrees with you there.
Yeah, I think the Aussies like to start fast. I've put the numbers in here. We can see 41 games in this bracket, 21 winners, 10 draws, 10 losses, equals odds of 1.95. They're up at 1.55. I think the market is overestimating them being that much better than Australia. The only market that's got any real value in it is the 1.5 goals based on the ELO numbers. But if we just change those over and pop Australia in here, because I do think there are going to be goals in this game, just for the fact that Denmark have to win it. and we pop Australia in, and there it is. They've had 14 group games, Australia. 13 of them have gone over 1.5, and which only one hasn't, which was the last one when they timely kept a clean sheet against Tunisia, wasn't it? Tunisia. 10 have had a first half goal. So I will be on the first half goal and the 1.5 mark. It's based on the team level and again the situation. Denmark have to go and score goals. So one or two things is going to happen. Either Denmark are going to score, or they're going to leave gaps at the back. And the Aussies, the Aussies have started fast in their games, and they could quite easily hit them on the break and grab a goal. I don't think we're seeing the Denmark who racked up those points in qualification. So for me, nothing in France, Tunisia. France will probably win, but we don't know what team they're even going to play. Denmark, I think, too short in the win market, and I will be on these goal markets. Probably first half goal, 20 minutes onwards, if there hasn't been one. If it was 0-0 at half time, I'd move into the 1.5. The game will get more desperate for Denmark as it goes on, if it is still a draw. So really interesting. Again, these are, if I was watching, this would probably a game I'd like to watch. I think it'll be quite, I think it'll be a bit end to end. And then obviously the big one is in the 7 o'clocks. We've got Argentina versus Poland. I've just got a few notes on that one. Poland are yet to concede a goal. And that really, this shows you this group with the Saudis beating Argentina. Poland can win the group or finish 4th in the group, depending on how that goes. If they beat Argentina, they will top the group. But if they lose and Mexico beat Saudi Arabia, they can be 4th. In their last 11 games via Argentina, they have conceded. Argentina arrived here back of 36 wins, shock defeat to the Saudis. They beat the Poland if they top the group and better the Saudis' results. If they win 2-0 and the Saudis only win 1-0, Argies will drop, top the group, and a draw can see them through if the Saudis fail to win. They've 13 World Cups. They've got out the group on 12 occasions.
Have Argentina really won their last 36 games?
Into the World Cup. Right before the World Cup, they won 36 on the spin and then turned up and lost to Saudi Arabia.
Wow. Because they're playing some quality teams. You mean in their South American qualifying?
Yeah, well, they won the Copa down there, didn't they? They beat Brazil in the final last year, 1-0.
Okay. Wow.
That's why I fancied them pre-tournament. But this is knife-edge stuff. I mean, Poland, are going to be difficult. They're as I say, haven't conceded a goal. Lewandowski he's got a goal, can score against anybody. Let's put the numbers in. I don't think it's going to be plain sailing at all for Argentina. I do think they're going to do enough, but I don't think it's plain sailing. So we've had 22 games where we're between 251 and 300. Odds of 1.38. Argentina are 1.51 today. No, there's genuinely no value anything else, and it's not a game I would even bet. I think it's another one, my phrase, going to be a bit of a war of attrition. I do think I just got a feeling Argentina will just do enough. It'll be one of them games where they nick it 1-0 or 2-1, something like that. Just do enough, but it's not a game I want to get involved in. And similarly, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, people have been raving about this lot. I hope they get knocked out personally. Mexico haven't really shown up. Pretty poor. I couldn't call that either way. If I put the in, there's nothing in the game. It's a bit of a nothing game for me, this one. 101 to 150. You can see we've got no value anywhere. I think Mexico won. I mean, I couldn't believe they were 1.76. I've got to check that because I just think it seems ridiculously short. They are. They're 1.73 now. They're shortened since I do that. So I certainly don't see Mexico as being a 1.73 shot, and you can see it works out 40 games, odds of 2. So that's a game I wouldn't be touching. So the only game I'm interested in on a betting point of view is those goals in Denmark, Australia, and that's based on Australia's team level and the fact Denmark have to win the game, and we've got value in the first half goal. France, as I say, probably win, but we don't know who's playing. This will be a cracker, knife-edge stuff for Argentina and Poland fans. And this one, I've got nothing I'm interested in. There you go. That's it for me. Kevin Harris can't download the spreadsheet.
Yeah, give it a go, Kevin. I mean, we've had about 400 downloads, very, very few problems. I would say somebody did have an issue. It was resolved by, if you use the Google Chrome browser, Kevin, use the Google Chrome browser and then put it in incognito mode. incognito mode, which is a kind of anonymous mode. That seems to make everything work. But so generally speaking, we've had very few problems. So hopefully you'll be able to get it working for you there, Kevin. And if worse comes to worse, just send me an email, Kevin. I can send you the data file. Very good. Okay. Right. If there's any questions for Ian, then get them in the chat. Barry, a quick question from Barry Walker. So Barry Walker saying, Ian, if Mexico are too short, would you consider laying them? And thinking about Ian's shirt as well in there, Barry.
Oh, that's it. Navy for the Navy today. But it's beautiful navy, isn't it? Doesn't it look good?
Very
navy.
smart. Very smart.
In normal terms, if this was normal betting for me, Barry, where I was league football and I had a load of data, then yes, in a situation like this where I don't really know much about the logic of what you're saying and the maths is absolutely fine. I'm personally not getting involved because of the competition and what it is, but the maths stacks up to Navy is slimming. The maths stacks up to that. They're odds of 2. You know, for this bracket, when you look at the ELO difference between the teams, odds of 2. And they're 1.76, and I just have no reason why they are 1.76. They haven't played well at this World Cup and shown up, so I don't really get what that's on. And everybody's telling me that this lot who beat Argentina are like Brazil. So, you know, apparently they were really good in the other game that they lost. So it'd be interesting to see. But the logic of the maths is dead right, Barry.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Kevin, for reporting that. Yeah, it seems to file download seems to work via Chrome. Very good. Okay, so getting into some analysis today. Going to go back into the stream here. Yeah, as we just said, this file is available for download. The latest file is called World Cup Data Before Show 11. Just follow the link in the video description below. And yesterday, yeah, it seemed to be quite insightful for some people. So we produced this analysis here. So we're analyzing goal times, of course. And we did this using what's called a data table. And yeah, one thing to bear in mind with data tables, and they can be a little bit awkward to work with, but everything gets better over time, is you'll get this notation in the cell to tell you that this cell is being used for one of these data tables, and you can't delete part of a data table. So if I go to any of these cells and just hit delete, we'll get this message from Excel saying that we can't delete part of a data table. So if you do want to delete a data table, Control-Shift down, you have to select all of the data and then hit delete to do that. Overall, yeah, we've got quite a lot of positive feedback on this, and it allowed us to generate this, which is our late goal implied odds. So I think we will go through some charts on the World Cup Daily Spreadsheet show. Maybe we'll do this next session because I want to show you something else about data tables today. But the key to producing this kind of chart, just quickly, is it's got nothing to do with being good at creating charts and everything to do with the preparation of the data. Good charts, the key is proper preparation of the data. And that's why data tables are so helpful. It allows us to get the data table into what I'd call a chartable format. So a format that Excel can easily understand and get into that, that nice chart. So yeah, maybe next session we'll look at creating a chart. I mean, are you a fan of charts, Ian? We don't have a huge amount of charts in your stuff, but
I think for you take the betting side. I mean, if we're aiming this at football betting, I think for the betting side for guys, it's absolutely vital, because as you go through most people have a incorrect expectation of what strike rates and winning is like. You know, if you're betting odds around 2.0, you need to win 55% of the time to make money, and that would be really good. But you're still losing 45% of the time, and that is it's unavoidable. It will always happen. And these guys who do bet, you know, they'll have 3 or 4 losers and they start to panic. I think once you can show them a graph of that over hundreds, thousands of bets, and you can see it's actually happened before, and it's just part of a natural, you know, order of how things go and natural randomness of sporting events, then it gives them that assurance that actually this isn't unusual. So for I do use them. I create my own, but I do think for these guys to do a lesson showing them that would be brilliant, because I do think it's really valuable for them.
Yeah, nice.
I like visual representation. I think it's really just because you see it in an instant, you just go, wow, bang, there you go.
Yeah, it allows you to get the big picture, quite literally, you're looking at the picture of the data. Yeah.
I did as I said to you before I start, thought it quite ironic. We chose everybody on FTS has been talking about how many late goals they are. We chose yesterday to do goals after 80 minutes. Let's show them how to do that. And not one of the games had a goal after 80 minutes yesterday.
That's what it's like.
I thought last night, that's absolutely quality. That is just typical.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well,
and that shows the randomness of it. You see, that's where people get sucked into, there's load of late goals. Everything is random.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And everything reverts to the mean over time, doesn't it?
It does, exactly.
These things correct over time. Yeah, very good. So we've got the data table, and let's just remember how to create a data table briefly. So if we go to data, what if analysis, and then data table. Now, yesterday, we have these two options here. We've got a row input cell, we've got a column input cell. Now, this is important because what we have now is a one-way data table, So we're looking at a single input cell into the model. And yesterday we looked at the goal minute, and we've got our goal minutes down here and our implied odds. We've got the data table doing all the work for us. So that's great. But at the risk of confusing people, and data tables are so tricky to put together, they don't work first time, for me, it's exactly the same. So at the risk of confusing you, and if all you take out of this is a one-way data table, that's a great tool in your Excel toolkit. But we also have the option of a two-way data table. Going to have a look at an example this morning. And a two-way data table, what does it do? Well, a one-way data table allows us to examine one input. A two-way data table would allow us to examine two inputs. So potentially two different things you want to look at. We've been looking at goal minutes. That's the most obvious one if we're thinking about late goals. But we had another one Ian mentioned yesterday, which is, could we separate out the group games from the knockout games? So create a distinction there. So we're going to have to make some slight changes to our model here. Hopefully nothing too major. That will incorporate that distinction. So we've got group or knockout. We've got a column in the data that allows us to do that. And that's going to mean we can scale up our data table. Well, we're going to have to create a new data table, and that will allow us to look at two different variables. And yeah, this is just an example. And obviously you could put whatever variables you wanted, whatever's of interest to you in this data table. But the first thing we've got to do is to update our model. And specifically, we want an option here to just look at group or knockout games. So I'm going to just take these down, Control X, Control V. Doesn't seem to have disturbed anything. So here we're going to say group or knockout. Control B, just make that bold. And then Control C, Control Alt V and T is just going to allow me to take the formats there. So what we're going to put in this cell, well, it's an input cell, which is why I've highlighted it yellow. Remember, there's only 3 types of cells in Excel, but understanding this concept can really help you understand Excel models, input, process, and output cells. We were talking yesterday about output cells. This implied odds cell doesn't have any dependence on it. It's at the end of the calculation chain, and you can confirm that by going to formulas and then trace dependence. But now it does. Now it does have a dependent up here because of our data table. So if I go to that cell and do the same thing, formulas here and then trace dependence, we can see we've got to the end of the calculation chain. So output cells are at the end of the calculation chain. If you can try to visualize this, if you've got a kind of visual way of learning, these arrows can be helpful that Excel gives us. And then an input cell is the opposite. An input cell is at the beginning of the calculation chain. So if we go to an input cell, it's going to have dependence. So I've selected the cell. I'm going to go to formulas and trace dependence. And we can see Excel's going to a different sheet to say there's a dependent cell. Alt-M-A-A is going to get rid of all the arrows here. But with the input cell, one way we can see, obviously, that it's an input cell is it doesn't have a formula in. So it's waiting for some kind of input from the user. But a good way is just to go to trace precedence. So do the opposite thing. And Excel is saying this cell doesn't depend on any other cells. So just, yeah, a bit of a conceptual thing, understanding, is this cell an input cell, a process cell, or an output cell? And then using the kind of aids that Excel gives us, can be really helpful. That conceptual understanding is so important if you want to understand the complex topic like spreadsheets. So we've got group or KO. So let's go back to our data, group or knockout. So this is the specific column that we're interested in. Once again, we're benefiting from properly prepared and cleansed data. Ian's been doing a bit of work on that in the background. Appreciate that. But here, yeah, it's group or knockout. So we've got the right column for the job. Our data structure should be able to do this. So in this cell, we've got the goal minute. In this cell, we want to put group or knockout. Now, for this kind of input cell, I would recommend supporting the user, supporting yourself with data validation. Now, data validation is important because if we get the input wrong, that could create all kinds of problems. It could create some very obvious problems. Some formulae might return errors, but it might create some less obvious problems as well that might take some time to find. So I always recommend data validation. We'd want a drop-down menu here. Now, recently, I've been creating drop-down menus, Alt-A-V-V on the Windows PC. So we've covered drop-down menus already on the World Cup Daily Spreadsheet show, and we've seen how we can put values in cells and then point the drop-down menu to those cells. That's absolutely fine, and that's the longhand and probably the better way to do it, the more correct way to do it. But you can also do it like this. You can just go list, and then you can type in the words that you want to appear down here. So it's a nice shorthand way to do it. So if you just say group or knockout there, is it that easy? I think it's that easy. It's kind of a shorthand way to create a drop-down menu. We can see we've got our little arrow here that tells us there's a drop-down menu, and then Alt and down arrow is the keyboard shortcut. So I've selected the cell, Alt and then down arrow, and then I can select group or knockout. So we've got our input cell set up, but we need to integrate that input cell into the analysis. We can see at the moment, well, that's just counting. That's yeah, actually, yeah. So this is the first thing we want to change, because this is counting all of our games up to row 357. But we'd want to only count the knockout games now. So let's see if we can do that first. So I'm going to change count A to count if singular should do it. Then we want to go to our data, so input, and then the knockout or group. And yeah, we've got to make a decision about the data we're going to cover here. Is that from yesterday? No.
I need to go back a little bit more. The England way up there around USA. That's it.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we'll update the formulae for today's data. So you're seeing how I'm having to update these formulae, because we've got new data coming into the file. So we'd actually want a dynamic solution. Now, we covered dynamic solutions a few shows ago, so we're not going to do that now, but that's just something to bear in mind. We're feeling some of the problems of having this changing data set, so we want some kind of dynamic solution. So if we say this, that should give us the number of knockout games. So we're saying we've got 80 knockout games. How could we test that quickly? Well, if we change this to group, 80 plus 276 is 346.
356. Jesus Christ.
356. I told you the other day, didn't I? My mental arithmetic is pretty horrendous. I blame Excel because I'm always using it all the time. Here we go. So 355. We've got that. Yeah, one more game there. So we've got 356 going up to the end of yesterday's game. So that's just a quick validation check. So all of these games seem to be included in our group or knockout. So it seems to be working fine. Right. So now we've got countifs. but we want to incorporate this group or knockout. Yeah, so yeah, I actually did something sensible here because I'm using count ifs, but we've only got a single criteria there. So I could use count if singular to create this, but I was probably thinking in a rare display of forward planning, I was probably thinking that, yeah, you know, we're going to put another criteria in here. So why not put count ifs in now? And that means we can put the second criteria in. So the criteria range 2, well, we want to incorporate a group or knockout here. So I'm holding down, on my system, I have to hold down shift and function and then the down arrow. And that allows me to get this continuous selection here using keyboard shortcuts. Then I'm holding shift now, shift and down arrow, just going down to the bottom. Now, these do need to match up, of course, when we're using count ifs. The rows need to match up. So we've got row 6, 3, 6, 1. And then we've got H6 to 3, 6, 1. Seems to be accurate. And now we want to do the same thing. Yeah, let's go ahead and fix that range, actually. Why not? So F4, F4, and then clicking in here just after the comma, I can see Excel's asking for criteria 2. So Excel's ready for the next component of the formula. And then we just hit that there. Okay, so that should give us 20 games with a late goal. In the knockout, so 20 out of 80. And then in the group, we've got 84 out of 276. So is that interesting, Ian? So
yeah, it is. I'll tell you what, it's really interesting. I mean, obviously knockout games and it gets a bit tighter and teams are desperately holding on, but I'm surprised how when you now go to group games how low that percentage is. I thought we'd be I thought that would be a lot higher. Oh no, can you change it to 80? That's why. Can you just change the minute to 80? That'll make more sense. Yeah, there you go. I said yesterday between 41 and 45%. That's it would be 85. That's it. There we go. So
and then 33
in the knockout, which you expect because they are cagier affairs in there. But the group game, that's about what I'd expect to see. And this World Cup's outperformed that.
Yep. Nice. Okay. And then the other formulae look okay. This is just a calculation, and this gives us our implied odds. Okay. Nice.
I like that.
Yeah. Little bit of insight already, but now our challenge. Yeah, good question from Bjarne here as well. What if you wanted group, knockout, or all? Good question. Yeah. I'm thinking about that now. Would we need a different formula for that? Because we're using count ifs here. Off the top of my head, the way I do that, Bjarne, I know you're quite an advanced Excel user. The way I would do that is I'd set up both formulae in the engine sheet, maybe on a sheet that the user's not going to see, and then use an if statement to pull that through. So if we're in all mode, I'd use an if formula to pull through the all formulae. If we're in knockout or group mode, I'd use a formula to pull through the result of these formulae we have now. But nice question. And Bjarne says, yeah. So the drop down list, we just need a comma between those entries. Go ahead and show you now. So click on the cell Alt-A-V-V on the Windows PC, and you can see, you don't need the speech marks or anything. You can very simply type those words in. Do I recommend that all the time? Not all the time, but if you want to do something very quickly, then I think it's okay. Barry says recommends your YouTube vids. Chris, excellent. Yeah, we do have about 350 videos on YouTube. We've got series on there. If you want to learn about VBA, for example, from beginner level, we've got 30-minute videos, for example. So go and check out the YouTube stuff, but it is all organized for you in Excel VBA for football traders. Good. Okay, right. So nice. So we've got a little bit of insight already, just with introducing the group or knockout. But this is our challenge. I'm approaching this with some trepidation, particularly after yesterday's botched attempt at a dates table. But this is what we're looking for. So we want minute again. And once again, the beauty of data tables, you can choose whatever candidate values you want in the academic field of optimization. And that is essentially what a data table is. It's an optimization tool. We call these candidate values. So these are values we're going to input to the model, you can choose whatever values you want. You could go from 45 minutes there if you wanted to, and you can make a data table as big as you want, as far as I know. But just bear in mind, a bit like a pivot table, a data table is resource intensive. It is resource intensive. So if you feel your system slowing down, could be because of the data tables. We do have a nice option in calculation. So if you go to formulas and calculation, Excel has a very nice practical built-in option here. So you can set calculation to automatic apart from the data tables. So Excel won't continually recalculate those data tables. Right. But the dream, what we're looking for, we've got the minute here. And then what we'd like, is this going to work? What we'd like is group and then knockout here.
I'm loving this. I'm loving this.
I'm sweating.
I'm
it's
loving
freezing outside.
If you pull this off, I'm loving it.
Well, this is only group or knockout. And it's not particularly impressive as a table because we've only got 2 inputs here. Yeah. If we had, this is what we call discrete data. It's text-based data. It looks more impressive when we have what we call continuous data. And this is continuous data, or at least you could argue it's continuous data. Yeah, you could have as much data as you wanted along here, and that gives rise to heat maps. You could then format that with conditional formatting, and we get a kind of heat map field. And in Excel VBA Football Traders, we do, of course, have a series on creating heat maps. I know on FTS, we've got a lot of analysis based on heat maps. So what we're saying to Excel is, all of these values, put them in that cell. These 2 values, put them in that cell, and then do all the work. Do all the work for us, and then populate this table. This is what we want. So, for example, you could do this manually. You say, Chris, I'm fine doing this manually. So if we were doing the first cell that we want to populate, just take this, implied odds, Control C, then Control Alt VV, take the value across, take this up to 76, Control C, Control Alt VV. That's all we're doing. And I'm just doing that. I'm not recommending you do that. I'm just doing that so you can understand the concept. That's what Excel is doing in the background. Excel is doing all that work. And that's why data tables are resource intensive, you say. Okay. Right, the moment of truth. Let's give this a go. So if we've got a 2-way data table, you'll remember yesterday with a 1-way data table, in this cell, which is at the top of the column, we linked that cell, hit the F2 key to the model output. This is the output. This is what we want Excel to actually put in the data table, whatever is in that cell. So if we've got a 2-way data table, we don't have any real estate here for linking to the model. We link to the model in the top left corner. So I can go equals, and then we need to know what the output cell is. We could even use this cell, but this cell should be fine for us. And there we go, Control B that. Okay, so we've got our basic setup here. Let's go Control B here too. No, that's a bit too much. I'm going to italicize these. Control I, Control B, and the same here, Control B, Control I. Right, so data table. Let's see how we do. Whew, okay, ready to go.
I can't help but feel you've been delaying.
Yeah, there's a bit of prevarication here, definitely. So we've selected everything. That's the first thing. That's what I didn't do yesterday. Didn't select everything. So we've selected everything, including the model output cell here, candidate values that are in a column and candidate values that are in a row. So then we go data, what if analysis, data table. Now it gets confusing. Right, talk through this. So row input cell. So Excel is saying the candidate values that you've arranged in the row, where do they go in the model? And then Excel is saying the candidate values that you've put in the column, where do they go in the model? So Excel is saying, where do I plug these values into the model? So our row input, praying a little bit here, we've got group or knockout. So we go there. We're saying to Excel, put those values in that cell. And then for the column values, we've got our minutes. And then hopefully they should go in that cell. And then Excel goes and does the work. What do you think? 39 minutes.
It's like a game show, isn't it?
It is. There's a lot of jeopardy here today. So before the moment of truth here, Barry says, yeah, could you group times in a data table, or could you group times? You could, Barry, but you'd need a slight modification on the model here. So if you wanted to get those time bands, you'd want, is that going to work? You can only do it for 2 input cells. So you'd want another input cell here for the goal minute. So you'd have minimum goal minute and maximum goal minute. And then you would adjust the formulae to have minimum or maximum in. Barry, if you want me to demonstrate that after this, just stick a comment in there to remind me. Okay, let's go. What do we got? Okay. So everything returns 0 to begin with, but we do have some values in here. And now we can check them against the model. Let's just reduce the number of decimal places here. 2 decimal places seems to be company policy, right? Okay, so we've got 76 in group and we've got 2.08. So I think
you've sailed it, son.
I'm hoping I have. So let's try 80. 80 for group, 2.34. And there it is. So let's switch over to knockout. Okay, knockout 80, 2.96. Okay, yeah. Seems to have worked. Seems to have worked. So that does seem to be, well, we can even go now and say a difference here. Let's use a little abs formula here. Okay, there we go. It tells us the difference. Just take the formats across there. So we get the Control C, Control Alt V T. So we get the decimal places there. Interesting, yeah. Is that interesting? There does seem to be quite a difference between the group and the knockout though.
It is, because knockout football is a lot tighter. It is, that's exactly it. It's do or die, isn't it? That's it. If you concede, you're out. So teams that are 1-0, opposite defense becomes the medium for the team in the lead. Absolutely brilliant. That that is genuinely, to be able to see that. And that's why I talk about visual stuff. Absolutely brilliant visually for the guys who bet on football, seeing stuff like that. And that's the reality of what you're facing. So if we get to 80 minutes, you can see in group knockout games, it's 33%. Football bettors love late goals, but you've got to understand you're going to be losing 67% of the time. You can't beat it. You can't beat the numbers there. You've got to then bet at the odds that enable you to win. Because what you'll see a lot of the time is exactly what somebody put in yesterday, boom, late goal. But you don't see the 67% of the time they're not booming, because that game didn't have a late goal, as we saw yesterday, 4 games that didn't have a late goal. So to be able to see it visually and the difference between what's happening now and what's to come, what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks after this, brilliant, Chrissy, absolutely. Not often I applaud you, son, but that is a little round of applause, that one.
Oh, cheers. You got to take the wins. Yeah, and I think we'll look tomorrow at it's a fairly simple step. Now we've prepared our data, and the key to creating a chart is to have well-prepared data. As I said at the beginning, we're not far away from creating this chart. And maybe tomorrow we could try to get 2 lines on there. So we get a line for the knockout and a line for the group, and as Ian says, that's really going to visualize, what we're trying to analyze here. Just want to cover
the only price that's shorter is the 90th minute. It's the only price that's shorter in the knockout.
Yep.
That is the only, everything else. Oh no, and the 88. Sorry, on 88 as well. There. Everything else. So brilliant, that.
Good stuff. So let's just deal with this. So Barry is saying, could I create bands? Yep. Yeah, I think you could. What you'd need is 2 input cells for the goal time, and then in our formulae here, you'd want another criteria in here. So you'd want 1 criteria looking at the minimum, 1 criteria looking at the maximum, and then that would allow you to achieve a band. Okay, now if you're using bands in that way, you could set up a data table having the lower bounds for the band in the column, the upper bounds for the band in the row. that would allow you to get a data table using those bands. If you really want to do that, Barry, and you can't do it yourself, let me know. Shoot me an email or leave it in the comments tomorrow, and we'll see if we can cover that, because that's quite interesting. But it's also a good point, because it brings up the slight downside of data tables, which is, we can only cover two inputs here. Because we've got a table, we've got a row and a column. We can only cover two inputs. So if you wanted to introduce a third input, so say you wanted to look at the bands and you wanted to look at group and knockout as well, what you're asking for is a 3-dimensional table there. So you'd actually have to create multiple tables to do that, or you'd want some kind of mechanism to allow the table to display different data, something like that. Anyway, good. And Barry's going to say, I'll have a go. Fantastic. Yeah, great attitude, Barry. Give it a go. Excel's just a skill. The more if you do 2 hours of Excel today, even if it feels like a complete disaster, you're going to be a little bit better at Excel. It's just like playing the drums, shooting a basketball. It's just a skill. And Lee says, could you add the number of games to the table? Great shout, Lee. You'd have to have another table at the moment. So you'd have to have another table. You link it to a different output cell, which would be this output cell. So currently we've linked it to that output cell. Is it as easy as this? If I just say equals the games instead, equals the games with the late goal. You can see. I don't know if you saw that, Lee, but if you just link it to a different output cell, you can actually get that. You can get that analysis straight away. What I tend to do with Ian stuff is Ian would want the implied odds, but then he'd want to know the number of games. Because if this is from a tiny data set, now the way we do that using cell comments. So we'd go to insert and then it's review, isn't it, for comments? New comment on a cell, and then we'd use VBA, which is Excel's programming language, to generate these. So if you hovered over the cell, it would say 32 games and 22 winners or something like that. But we use VBA to do that. Okay, very good. Have we got a show there, Ian? What do you think?
That's brilliant, Chrissy. I mean, I've never used these. Just seeing how you put it together. Absolutely. I mean, as I say, visually for football punters, that's absolutely just brilliant.
Yeah, good stuff. Always good to hear, guys. Always good to hear. Thanks very much, guys. So some good football on today. Argentina, what time are they playing? Is it 7?
Argentina, Poland, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, the 7 o'clock kickoffs. Denmark, Australia, 3 p.m. Along with France, Tunisia. Good luck to all involved. If we've got our Aussies, good luck to you. Danes, good luck to you. Argentines, good luck to you. Poland, good luck to you. Mexico, Saudi Arabia, sorry, I really don't care.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm looking forward to those games. I'll definitely catch a bit of those. Okay,
guys. Argentina tonight should be, just for what's at stake for them, I think will be cracking.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, guys. So we'll see you again, same time, same place tomorrow. World Cup Daily Spreadsheet Show. Take care. See you then.
Cheers, guys. See you later. Thank you.